Namaste. Hello and welcome to the Kundalini podcast. That was Zen. This is Tao. I'm Vivek Govekar. This is episode 36, and I'm back to my short little hair. It feels so good. Like a burden goes away, and I'm not picking up anything that I don't need to. So, anyways, number 36. I'm keeping with this theme of speaking about topics that are significant to the number. So, number 36, this is related to Kashmir Shaivism. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit. So, what is Kashmir Shaivism and why is it significant to what I'm talking about, which is the Kundalini process? When I awakened my Kundalini, and you'll see the blog post that I've posted down here, and you probably read it before, I saw the entire universe as vibration. Like I was one with everything, and everything was vibrations. So naturally, at this point, I'm still ignorant about most things. I've just received this gnosis or knowledge, which I'm still trying to struggle with and compute in my old unawakened brain. So I tried looking up what's this? How am I seeing everything as vibrations? Is there a doctrine? Is there a philosophy that takes that into account and makes it into some kind of a spiritual path or source of knowledge? So I started looking it up. And the first thing I found was a book called The Doctrine of Vibration. So I'm like, okay, this has to be something relevant. And that was Kashmir Shaivism. So I got that book. And I got a few other books. I got some used books. The very first book that I actually went to a bookstore and purchased right after my experience on the next day was The Flight of the Eagle by J. Krishnamurti. And it all started making sense. Like suddenly, in the past, I would talk about like, yeah, I read Krishnamurti, I read such and such philosopher, but didn't really understand much of it beyond just the surface. But sometimes you read books just to impress people and say, I have read this book. And you don't really understand it, or you think you understand it, but you really don't get it to the deepest meaning. This time, I was reading The Flight of the Eagle, The Doctrine of Vibration, and other books, and everything made sense. But especially what I gravitated and was especially fascinated by was this whole theory of vibration. So I found Kashmir Shaivism, and eventually I found the greatest book possibly on the subject in the Kashmir Shaivite tradition. It's called The Secret Supreme by Swami Lakshmanju. He's a great enlightened master, and you can probably find some of his videos on YouTube. These were made before the internet era. He, I think, passed away sometime in the late 80s or early 90s, but an amazing man. And that opened up everything for me. Not only is it based on vibration, which was my experience, but Kashmir Shaivism is the closest path towards spirituality for a scientist and a modern man, someone who's a rationalist, but now decides to explore these things because of a personal experience or because of curiosity. I would recommend Kashmir Shaivism because there are so many parallels to modern science that it's incredible. So, what is Kashmir Shaivism? Shaivism is the worship of Shiva, but the Shiva that is talked about in Kashmir Shaivism is different from Shiva, who is the Holy Trinity, part of the Hindu Holy Trinity: Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva, the creator, sustainer, and destroyer. That's not the Shiva we are talking about. In Kashmir Shaivism, instead of saying the universe, you say Shiva. So Shiva is the entire universe. And there are 36 levels. Now, this contains everything, the realms. And your human body, which is a representation of the universe as a microcosm, then elevates to these levels. So you start at Earth, which is the lowest level. Earth, the state, not Earth, the planet. Then water, fire, air, ether. And each one of these have chakras associated with them. But Kashmir Shaivism goes into a little bit more depth about that. It takes everything, the sense organs, and it looks at them from the point of view of vibration or a complexity of vibration and simplifies it. And your sense of taste has a certain chakra associated with it. Your sense of smell has a certain chakra associated with it. It then goes to subtler and subtler vibrations like willpower, which is called Ichha Shakti. The knowledge of I separated from the knowledge of is. It goes into such detail. It goes such minute detail, and this is one of those complex books. By the way, an interesting note: in all, like whenever they make fun of somebody spiritual, and when I was unawakened, uh, any comedy that I heard is like when you showed this guru or swami, and that guru starts talking about who are you? I am he is you, I am, and we would laugh about that. Like, why do they talk about these bizarre, like funny things, right? And lo and behold, now I find myself after being awakened talking about who is I am he, and now I'm sure I seem funny to people, but that's exactly what happens. You start separating like who is the I, who is me, what's the real me. That's the whole process of awakening. It's not just a me, I'm a body, I was born anymore. It's just this whole existence becomes a mystery to be solved, to be resolved, to be explored. Excuse me. So, Kashmir Shaivism allows you to get into every nut bolt, every part of the human existence that is described by this body and this mind and this person speaking to you. It goes into every little detail. Now, it would be very beneficial if you had some knowledge of Sanskrit or some Indian language if you read that book or when you read that book, The Secret Supreme. A lot of these things are given in English. The whole book is in English. But the words are in Sanskrit, and there is no alternative to that. As I have said before, Sanskrit, the language, and it says so in the book as well, the language Sanskrit is Shiva being able to be spoken, let's put it that way, by the human tongue. And the sounds you're making are invoking that divine inflection, that divine facet. I know it's a bit difficult to understand. Watch this video again and understand what I'm saying. So, the divine revealed tones, Shiva as a language, or the universe as a language, and as it exists and as it resonates with every part of the human body, is the Sanskrit language. So, correct pronunciation and knowing some rudimentary basic Sanskrit to be able to pronounce it properly is a basic requirement of knowing that book. You'll get more enjoyment out of it. You may still read the book for an intellectual understanding without knowing Sanskrit or without knowing the pronunciations, but you're going to get a lot more out of it spiritually. And if you plan on reading it over and over again, if you knew some basic Sanskrit, basic Hindi, or some Indian language and how to pronounce those terms. I was fortunate enough, again, I'm an Eastern man living in the West. No baggage from the past, no tradition. I love that part. But having a process, which is a process that has been going on for many centuries and people have identified it and have put it together as these books, like something like Kashmir Shaivism. So, Kashmir Shaivism takes everything from your emotions, your senses, your sense organs, your willpower, your power to reproduce, your power to create something, and everything has been broken down. So, when you do a chemical analysis, let's say you get a chemical, it's a cocktail of many different things, like, for example, the juice from a plant and a chemical analysis is done and you know every single chemical that's in there, right, in what amounts, what proportions. That's kind of what it is in Kashmir Shaivism, and it breaks everything down from a metaphysical point of view into every element of the human existence. And it's fascinating. As a scientist, I especially found it fascinating. Later, I, started reading the Tao. Each one of these helped me with the different part of myself and how to assimilate the energy with me. How so? Let me explain. Because I'm a scientist and because I have that curiosity set up in me, that explanation is going to be better for me than some mystical explanation like Zen or some stories and parables. Initially, at least, I need that rational explanation. If I have too much baggage set up in my mind, too much clutter in my mind, and I've just jam packed my mind with too many facts and details and do's and don'ts, then the Tao will help me eliminate one of them, one by one, each one of them. So, different paths and what they have described start appealing to you because what it is these are your own paths. That is your path, and you're just finding it on the outside because inside it's going to appeal to you and help you get to the higher level, progress on your journey. Kashmir Shaivism, what Swami Lakshmanju says, and what needs to be remembered as a takeaway from this video. You'll go and read the book yourself if you're interested. But he says everything is Shiva. So everything is God. And he was the first person to say, usually when you go to a spiritual guru or read one of these books, it's like, oh, enlightenment, very difficult. You are not going to get it or whatever. There are many rules. And so already they're putting obstacles and hindrances and more barriers towards getting that. Swami Lakshmanju says, if you want to believe that you're already enlightened, he doesn't even say you're already enlightened. He says, you are Shiva or you are Param Shiva. Param is the highest. So from level 36, that's Earth, to level 1, that's Param Shiva. You're already Param Shiva. So if you want to start from that point of view of believing I'm already enlightened by saying that I'm already Param Shiva, it's okay. It's a good starting point. And not many other traditions say that. But if you look at what I've said in the past about affirmations, you become what you believe you already are. If you already are in a mindset that is positive and reciprocative to that thought, to that chain of events, being that cascade beginning, it must first begin by you believing that it already exists. Or yeah, that's just few steps along the road. So, believing that I am already Param Shiva. Shiva is within me. I am Param Shiva. And eventually, when all the barriers, all the mud, all the clutter, garbage is cleansed away, my inner Param Shiva, highest beingness, highest self isness, that is that highest divinity, will be revealed. It's that simple. Oh, big revelation. So, begin your practice by already believing you're enlightened. Nothing wrong with that at all. Don't go out and gloat or tell people, hey, look, you're looking at God. Hey, I'm Shiva. That would be silly. You're not at that level yet. If you come to that level, like these days when I'm making these videos, some people might find it an ultimate sign of conceit or arrogance, the things I'm saying. But I have arrived at that level and I can make those statements. Yes, I am this. Yes, I have, without an iota of doubt, realized that I am at this point or that point, and I say those things. Then there is no doubt, and then there is no need to hide any of those things. Then, if somebody wants to have a discussion with me about, oh, no, maybe your explanation is wrong, and I don't engage with them in those arguments, they might be offended by them, but it's not for them. It's just that that's irrelevant to me right now. So that's a little bit about Kashmir Shaivism and the number 36. Please go and read more about Kashmir Shaivism. You might find it very interesting. And for the Kundalini method, there is no clearer method than Kashmir Shaivism. Thank you. Be well.